on a roll today. It's quiet in the house, so taking advantage. I've just pre-punched this strap. This is a dark brown. I'm calling it like a dark oaky brown. I don't know the technical color. I got it in a big batch of hides from another maker a while back. So I've punched the holes and I've rounded the ends here. And this was an offcut of a belt that I made around the end of the year, around Christmas time, I believe. So I'll be I just made another one of these from the other half of it. It started up at an 1.5 inches, like this wide, and then I split it in half, so it's about 3/4 of an inch wide now. Which, let me get the hardware. So still with the alligator clasp, I'm making a lot of these as I have pieces to do so. So locked it in place, have the split ring on there, and I've punched 3 holes, so this end will fold over itself like this, like so, and then we'll put a Chicago screw in, and we'll fold this over, and so it'll look about like this one done. And again, it can be a wristlet. You can put your, you know, some people carry their wallet on a key ring, just a little clutch or what have you, or keys, or corporate tag, school tag, whatever the case may be. All right, so put this in the bin. All right, so for now, the next step, so step 1 was splitting it down from a similar piece of this. This is slightly longer, but same width. Step 2 was to punch the holes and round the ends, which my punching mat is at the opposite end of my work table, so I'll do that off camera for now. So now I'm going to bevel the edge. 1/2 was already done from when I made a belt. I beveled the whole thing. Security team is on alert. Sounds like a delivery, maybe. Some makers have a really cool setup where they'll position their beveling tool on the, like, secure it in place on the edge of their bench and then pull the leather through. I don't have that. I don't do a ton of straps and beveling by comparison to other things, so I haven't had a need for it yet. But if I get into making a lot of belts, hey Sully, then I might look at that. Come here, Sully. Come here, buddy. Probably the mailman, if I had to guess, by that bark. All right, so edges are beveled on the top side, and since this is probably going to be a wristlet, I'm also beveling the inside, again, just to take the soft edge off. Thank you, buddy boy. Sometimes this goes in one long smooth noodle, spaghetti leather noodle, if you will. Sometimes it breaks apart, and either way is okay. There's not really a good use for these little straps here. They're too thin to tie anything with, so most likely they'll go and be the innards of a pin cushion or paperweight or something like that. almost done here. And this leather is a little bit dry, so it will really absorb oils and sweat and water and things as it gets used. But since it's already kind of starting dark, it won't darken that much more. There's not a lot more to go there. But I really enjoy the depth of this, and it's kind of a thick leather, probably a 10 to 11 ounce, so it's got a really nice heft to it. All right, so next I'm just gonna sand off, file off the rough edges of the ends here. All right, so again, not much sanding. Next, I'm going to burnish this here. All right, so just get a little bit. I have about 8, maybe more, 8 to 10, 12, something like that, upcoming events planned, starting at the end of September. I may add a few more, depending on the events and the capacity I have in our kiddos' schedule and other things. So I've been spending some time focused on making things for those, and a few of them are new, about half and half. About half I've done before, and about half I will be doing for the first time. So once I've done an event for 2 or 3 times in a row, then I kind of know what goes well at each one. For example, some events I sell a lot of knife sheaths, which I have several pocket knives and then some large pocket knives I'll be making sheaths for, and I'll do another video for that. Some I sell a lot of bags at, some I sell a lot of everything at, and it really just depends on the event, the venue, the weather, and the demographic. So up in Denton, I do a lot of like the more artistic things with the different leathers, like buffalo leather and the olive colored leather, which I'm almost out of, go really well up there. Ballet trays go well, especially the larger ones, because there's a big gamer community. I don't know a lot about games, Tetris and Solitaire, about the extent of my gaming understanding. But I think they play Dungeons and Dragons and other dice related games, so dice bags and things like that go really well with the student population there. And then they also have a lot of requests for special artistic folios, and then we get into like the Ren Fair costumes and things. So it's really fun to understand what people want and buy and have requests for, because it's kind of outside of my usual understanding and accessory lineup for myself personally, but it's really fun to make different sorts of things. Then I do some in Dallas, and those are really fun because there could be anybody or anything. I also do a car show in November up in Denton, Pistons and Paint, which is really cool because that's it's outside all day. It's usually cold that day. The last 2 years I've done it, it's been super cold, super windy, but it's so much fun. There's such cool people and repeat customers, and I love seeing people again for second, third, fourth, fifth time in some cases, because they're coming back to, like, show me how their item is wearing, or to get something for a family member or themselves again or something like that. So that's always a nice compliment. That's really cool to see people again and again. Let's see if I can hold this into place. There we are. This is an old iron I picked up at a yard sale, and then a 2-pound weight that I got recently. I like to repurpose things a lot, so finding this was really cool. It'd be cool to have, I have an old cast iron one somewhere that would be really nice to have. But I have to make sure that it's not something that will mark the leather in some sort of way, so it has to be really smooth and non-marking. Seems like most items take about an hour, and that's what I'm learning by doing videos, because I'm able to see the timestamps and things. But I have traditionally not photographed or videoed a lot prior to this, so this is a new thing I'm trying out, because I get a lot of questions about the process and, you know, how do I make things, what goes into it, and it also helps with kind of an appreciation. You know, I appreciate music a lot more if I can see the band perform it live, for example, versus just hearing it recorded. So if people can see the steps that go into something, you know, if you ever see like a meal be prepared, or food, or like an article of clothing, like if your grandparents or parents or somebody ever made clothing, you understand how many steps go into it and how much planning and thoughtfulness and time and love and energy actually go into one simple thing. Even though this is just a straight strap with you know, no sewing, just a few holes punched, all the steps kind of add up. And like I said in another video, if I had a Dremel tool or, you know, machinery, it would go a lot faster, but speed is not my concern. This is starting to dry out a bit. So I'm just gonna dab right here. Just dab this on, then I'll spread it out. Hi, Lucy Goosey. So almost got this all spread along here, and then burnishing again. So probably burnishing, unless it's a piece that I need to think about and plan out and draw out, which is not too often. I normally kind of freehand everything. Burnishing and sewing, I think, are the two most single time consuming steps there. But either way, let me see if I can this more. Okay, here we are. Yeah, so I spend a lot of time sewing and a lot of time burnishing, and it's fun. It's very meditative. So not a lot to think about what you're doing. It's just repetitive actions, sort of like doing the dishes or showering or driving or something like that. So it's a really good time to think and have some mental clarity and reflect. I'm also not a huge talker, so talking through this is a good practice of vocabulary, of actually using terminology that I hear and read, but rarely ever vocalize myself. So it's kind of like using a new muscle. Most of the time when I'm working on leather stuff, my wife is reading and our son is usually doing something else, drawing or reading or playing a game or something, or in the pool or at a camp or whatever. So, you know, kind of have our own interest, and so it gives some time for everybody to have their own space and time, and it's kind of nice. And the dogs, we have 3 dogs, so they go in and out, and they come through, and there's 2 in here napping now. There's 1 probably laying in the front window protecting us from deliveries and crows and things. Need just a little bit more of this, and this was starting to get kind of dry and separated, so I just shook it up as you saw, and then let it sit upside down for a minute, so it just kind of keeps it fresh here. And since this leather is a bit more dry, I'm using Tokonol instead of water. I use Tokonol the most, and it has kind of an Elmer's glue, like an Elmer's, the white, just a plain school glue, I guess it's called, consistency. And it just provides a protective layer on the edges where it's been cut and exposed. So it does come in other colors. I have some black and brown, but it is extremely messy, and I messed up a few pieces with that trying to be a bit fancier, so I'll let the experts do that. I'll stick with the white that turns clear. Let's see. So the friction of the burnisher applied to the liquid, whether Tokonol, beeswax, or water, or maybe other people use something else to edge, I don't know. Just kind of drives and morphs into this, goes from like a, again, kind of a glue consistency, an Elmer's glue consistency, to not a thick coat, but a protective coat. So in leather where there's more oils, it's easier to use water because the oils will come up and it'll perform, or keep saying perform, it'll provide a protective coating that way more naturally. I don't actually know what's in this. The rest of it is in Japanese, I think. Yeah. And I don't know how to read Japanese, so I have no idea what the ingredients are, or what it's made from, or how it's made. Alright, so almost done here. Alright, so I've got the ends done. Didn't get that end very well actually. Let me get a little bit more. Just a dab. Probably too much. Alright, so I've got quite a lot of these made actually. I'm quite pleased with how many how many multiples of things I've been getting done. They're all one of a kind still, but I have 5 rancher logs ready to go. I've lost count of wallets, different sizes, several like field note size covers, lots of key rings, and these wristlet key fob types. And then I've got a 3-ring folder. Let's see, I've got an iPad sleeve. I need to make some more of those. Those always are popular, especially around the holidays. I have a stack of valet trays. I need to make a lot more of those. Those and mouse pads probably sell the most by volume when I have them available. Alright, so this one here. Actually, I need to make these holes just slightly bigger, and I'm sure there's a better way for this. I actually have multi-size hole punch set, but this works. This works enough. So I punched the holes, but it's not quite, it's like 1/2 millimeter, 1/3 of a millimeter maybe, just slightly too small with the punch that I have. So I just kind of open it up just a little bit more with the end of my edge beveler, and that works just fine. All right. Get that. All right, so I'm just using Chicago screws. These are 1/2 inch, roughly. A little bit, I think the post is a little bit more than 1/2 inch, but so just pop this through. We need to make it a little bit bigger. Yep. Just a little bit. I also like using these on belts instead of rivets. So if the owner ever wanted to make a change to the buckle, then it's easy to just unscrew these and screw them back in. And rivets aren't easy to undo once they're in, not cleanly, that I've found anyway. Maybe somebody has some tips on how to do that. Let's see if this works. All right, pop through, and there we go. Just a little bit more. It's minuscule amounts, but I want it to be a perfect fit, so there's not a lot of movement. This leather doesn't really, it's very stoic. It's not very forgiving, similar to the black leather I was using earlier, and then that thick veg tan, that this really thick, probably 12 to 13 ounce veg tan that I've made a desk pad from. So I want to get the fit just right, because it won't loosen up over time or anything like that unless it has some really, really, really tough use. And gets wet a lot, or is really exposed to some elements. Just a little more. All right, so then we'll screw this in just on the back side here. Some folks apply a little dab of glue to hold this in place, but I've not had anything come apart thus far. I'm sure they do in time, but all right, I put that on the wrong side. I'm gonna undo this and fix that back. I thought it was a little dangly, but I wasn't paying attention. I like it to be on the smaller loop up here, so person who gets this can put their wrist through without interference there. But let me fix that. That's a very easy fix. That's the benefit of the Chicago screws in lieu of the copper rivets. I really like the look of copper rivets, so I do use those on a lot of things. Just pop this one side off. Just not on these, unless unless I'm using copper hardware. Okay, so let me get this back in here. Once it'll fit again. Got it. Alright, screw this back on. And just like another one I made in black earlier and brown, I haven't stamped my logo or anything on this yet. I like to leave some blank occasionally. And if the person wants their initials or a name or something stamped on, I can always, if they buy it at an event, I can always bring it back home, and then most people are local, I can get it to them or pop it in the mail. So, all right, there we are. Another one down.